Good evening, everyone. My name is Toni D, and I am a recovered alcoholic from New Jersey. Hello, hello, hello. And wow, thank you all. Thank you for inviting me. Olis, thank you, Linda, for that introduction. And thank you, everybody who's in service today. Wow, wow, wow. Obviously, I needed a meeting. Okay, even though we booked this a while ago, obviously, I needed a meeting tonight, and I'm so grateful to be here. My sobriety date is December 17th, 1993. And by the grace of God, it's been 30 years of sobriety, one day at a time. So for anybody new in this group, I qualify in the shortest way possible. It sounds like this. I could not take a drink. That's how I got my seat here. My home group is the Friday morning bagel group at 10 a.m. It's a concurrent meeting where we have an online presence as well as 50 people meet or 40 people meet in person. And we invite you to be there. And if we're allowed to put that in the chat or what have you, we'll certainly do that later. Wow, wow, wow. I'm in the wow mode, right? Because I'm just starting to accept life on life's terms at this season of my life. How's that? And it's giving me all kinds of new opportunities. And what a special thing to see Calvin, for instance. That's a special piece tonight for me to see Calvin on this meeting. Step 11. It was read so beautifully, and Step 11 workshop, what it is saw through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him. Oh my goodness, as we understood him. I think it's important to say a little bit about this step, as we understood him. Praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. Wow. Step 11 for me. We always start our meetings with a little bit of humor. So here we go. Let me see if I can come up with a quick one. We don't believe we're a glum lot in New Jersey. And let me see. I just want to scroll around a little bit. Come on, turn those cameras on. We're not staying in isolation. Thank you for all you beautiful faces. I see you. So I need some naughty heads. I need some thumbs up, all of that. So we can all stay engaged in this process, right? Thank you. Okay, here's a little one for you. Let's see. Let me think. Oh, how about this one? You have those things called adult children. Anybody got those? Come on, just shake your head or what have you. And you know how they get a little snarky with us every once in a while when we ask them for things like, can you help me fix this on the cell phone? Can you do a computer? Can you work on the computer with me? Those kinds of responses we get from them. Just do it this way. Just do it that way. What's wrong? Oh, I don't understand why you don't get it. Well, I got a response for you now. When you hear that, just look at them and say, I taught you how to use a spoon. Yeah, okay. All right, just cut it. So, not a glum lot. And going into my step 11. I love that it's in, after we get through that 4 and 5 and what have you, we go straight into action, don't we? We go right into that action steps. And I always like to look at words. Words blow my mind in Alcoholics Anonymous, and how appropriate to be in Founders Week, right? For this step for me. The beautiful writing that was done by the collective and with Bill with his divine inspirations. What beautiful writing. AA means for me to act adult. How's that? I start with that. That's my premise. Let's act adult. That doesn't mean I don't have some childlike qualities in me and that I can't have fun. But when I'm really doing my step work, it's about act adult and be open to receive. And I wanted to look it up, but I pretty much feel like the power of that word struggle. And even how when you read something, come on, there's some of you who are in my age group, when you read something and you see something else, Come on, give me some naughty heads here. You read something and you see something else. Well, we have a little typo when it comes to our flyer, and I didn't discover it till today. The topic is on page 86, is what I submitted. So we got a little typo there instead of 96. It is not on 96, it's on 86. So I don't want you guys hunting on the wrong pages. So let's go to 86. And it tells me, first of all, this chapter, the words are into action. Doesn't say into whining. It doesn't say into feelings. It says into action. Let's get busy. Let's get busy and do the work. And I'm always impressed with that, just the words and the titles of some of our beautiful big book. So when I come down to step 11, I feel very strongly like it prepares me to get involved in step 11, even when I'm on the bottom of 85, when it starts to tell me that if we carefully follow directions, we've begun to sense the flow of his spirit into us. Wow. To some extent, we've become God conscious. We've begun to develop this vital sixth sense, and we must go further, and that means more action. So I believe for me that's a promise for me to continue to do the work. I break down the steps in all kinds of ways over the years. I've been very blessed to be here. And I call 10, 11, and 12 my grow-up steps. They're not maintenance, they're grow-up for me. Because if I continue to do them, they keep changing me and changing me and changing me. And so when I get down and begin my step 11 with my prayer and meditation, I have got to have already said, God, I receive you. I want you in my life. Please change me. Help me to be more useful. And guess what? You told me this is spiritual progress, not spiritual perfection. Thank goodness. Yes? So some days it works out really wonderful and some days it doesn't. But I keep striving for it. I keep striving for it. This is a step that basically for me says the more that I love God, maybe the more that I can give love. That's what it says for me. And so I'm going to try to put a little bit of my story in this step as it goes along. If we have the proper attitude, I want to come back to that word of struggle. Struggle is a very powerful word. Let's go on down to page 86. Way down to the bottom last paragraph. It says, in thinking about our day, we may face indecision. We may not be able to determine which course to take. Here we ask God for inspiration and intuitive thought or a decision. We relax and take it easy. We don't struggle. How powerful is that sentence? We don't struggle. It's simple. It's got a giant period at the end of it. It's 3 words. And I know sometimes in my faith, we've got some short words in my big book, and it tells me about my God wept. How simple is that? All right? Bill is saying to us, and this book tells us, we don't struggle. And so I had to look around at all of our different literature and think, what does that mean to me? I just hear the word, we don't struggle. What does that mean? And for me, we don't struggle. The dictionary version is about, forcefulness and violent effort and all that sort of stuff in order for us to get rid of something or not to be constrained or what have you. Those are the dictionary versions of it. But Bill gives us some beautiful examples in our literature. And these I own. I own in my story. In the 12 and 12 on page 122, it tells us, it's actually in step 12, but it says, the heartbreaking struggle for money, romance, or self-importance. Whoa, that's a new definition of struggle for me. Because when I got here, that's where I was. I wanted to get to the top. I thought it was all on me. the heartbreaking struggle for money, romance, or self-importance. And then he tells us also in the 12 and 12, where the word struggle shows up. It's in tradition 1. It's on page 130. Struggle for wealth, power, and prestige was tearing humanity apart as never before. There I get another definition of what struggle is. It's almost the same. Once again, wealth, power, and prestige was tearing humanity apart as never before. Wow. And then finally in the 12 and 12 on page 53, it says, always we try to struggle to the top of the heap or what? Hide underneath it. All those definitions of struggle, I can now identify with that got me here. Because that's what my life was like by the time I got to this beautiful fellowship. It was about always thinking about, am I doing the best? Am I at the top? Am I going to get to the top? Whatever the heck was the top? Whatever that was. I don't even know what the top was today. But back then, that was all that went through my mind, was how I could get better. And of course, I had, I still had some of the humanity in me that wanted to help others, but I wanted to help others based on a particular motive. And all of that is described in our step 11. And so I'm going with the daytime because I'm talking about the meditation first. I'm going with the daytime stuff, which is simply this: on awakening. And as we read that paragraph about on awakening, let's think about those 24 hours ahead, etc. We need to ask God to direct our thinking, especially that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. So on awakening, as I plan my day, am I only thinking of me? Am I thinking about what I can do for others so that they can do something back for me? What's my motives? What's driving me when I wake up in the morning? What's driving me? And so I'm very clear today to watch out for my motives. I wasn't even aware of my motives when I was in my cups. How's that? I wasn't even aware of motives. Who even talked about motives when I was having that wonderful whatever it was at the time? So I have to watch out for my motives. And God did give me every characteristic I have came from God. My character came from God. My talents came from God. It's the excess use of things that get me in trouble. The excess use of things get me in trouble. A long time ago in the old days, we used to say things, old days, my God, I can't believe I'm saying such stuff these days. All right. A long time ago, we used to say things like, oh, trouble, I hadn't been drinking. But every time, let's see, every time I drank, I didn't get in trouble, but every time I got in trouble, I had been drinking, right? Wow. How true is that? How true is that? There had always been some liquor on my breath when things got a little funky. Yes, when things were a little out of sorts. I was very fortunate. I didn't start really drinking, not through high school, not through college. And there was only the reasons were because God was protecting me through those times. I went to a school in Philadelphia and they didn't have drinking on campus, and it had state stores where you have state troopers standing at the door. So you don't play with fakey IDs and things like that. So for 4 years, I was protected. But boy, oh boy, when I got to corporate America, here it came. Why? Because I always wanted to fit in. I didn't want to be different. So when I got to corporate America, my motives were always to fit in. But those had been my motives all my childhood and through. But it was overpowering in corporate America for me because I was the first at everything. I was the first to go to college. I was the first to work with that Fortune 500 company. I was the first to make that kind of income. I was the first. And I had so many things that had happened in my life that were not wonderful because I was a good girl. And the good girl had done some things that weren't very godlike and weren't good girl-like. And with those things underneath there, hidden, you know about secrets? Anybody here know about secrets? Yeah, I had a bunch of those. I had those secrets. And so that stayed on the inside of me all the while the outside of me was progressing. If you only knew. If you only knew. So my motives were that you wouldn't know, that you wouldn't find out, etc. So now I get to watch my motives every day. And then anytime it tells us to ask in our beautiful literature, anytime it says to ask, well, who the heck is it asking? We're asking our higher power. So anytime I see ask in the big book, for me, that means do a prayer. That means say a prayer. And so it tells us at the bottom to ask God for inspiration, an intuitive thought, or a decision. Inspiration, an intuitive thought, or a decision. Well, that is, it just, whenever I hear the word inspiration, again, it drills down for me that there's something divine in that. So when I'm asking for inspiration, I'm really asking for divine guidance. It's got the word for, in my brain, the way I spell, it's got the word spirit all in it. Yes? So I'm looking for divine guidance when I'm working with inspiration in my life. So I'm going to ask God so that I can be more creative. I can respond to things in a different way. I'm going to ask God. And then it tells me we relax and take it easy. Relax and take it easy. You know, this life is not a vale of tears. Relax and take it easy. Oh, by the way, that doesn't mean that we might not have a few challenges along the way. It's just a response to life. And challenges is a word I can put in my life a little more when I think of the definition that tells me about disputing the truth of the validity of something. So I call them challenges because on any given day, I could have a challenge as to what's true because I've learned by being around you that everything I think is not true. How about that? Everything I think is not true. I've spent a lifetime believing that what I thought was the truth. And I'm so grateful that as I grow, I get to see it is not true. A simple example, I could see somebody walking down the street and based on what they have on or how they walk or what their gait is like, I could feel, quote, threatened. Yes, because in here I'm thinking I'm threatened. And that person can come by and say something so sweet to me or so kind to me or so gallant to me, like, hi, ma'am, good morning, ma'am, have a blessed day, and keep walking. Oh my goodness. Everything I thought was not true. And so I'm so grateful to have learned that sort of thing with you. And if I keep relaxing and taking it easy, more gets revealed. The uptight Toni that came in here, the Toni that spent the first 10 years of her sobriety reading this book, this beautiful big book, as if it, on this, even the new one is falling apart, reading this beautiful big book as if it were a textbook. Wow. It's a different experience today. You read the spiritual experience and it talks about our transformation. change, change, change. And I believe so strongly that if I'm still telling you the same story I told you 30 years ago, remember those were through drunk eyes. Something's wrong. Because that was my perception of what happened. And today I get to look at it a little differently. I get to look at it a little differently with a sober mind, which also acts alcoholically from time to time. Just let you know that. All right? But I get to catch myself, and they become moments and hours instead of days and weeks like they used to. And it tells me that we're not going to be inspired at all times. So we need to watch out for that. You know, God speaking to me, God speaking to me, my God is speaking to me. I need to check it with somebody. I need to check it out. I need to ask for some counsel. And what I do is speak to my, excuse me, my sponsor or one of you. I have this beautiful network of folks so that I don't feel that everything that's coming up that's so inspirational is coming directly from God. Some of it is the Toni Show. I call it the Toni Show because it's a rock and roll show going on up in here. Okay? And so I start to think a bit differently. And as time goes on, I sometimes can rely on it. I can rely on it. I can rely on some of my thinking when I've done the work. I can rely on some of my thinking when I've had an exchange with one of you and you give me a different perspective. I stay because my perspective keeps shifting. A different way to look at something. So I'm still in my daytime. And you know, it says we usually conclude this period of meditation. Isn't that interesting? It tells us that our 11th step is meditation. Boy, how many years did I read that page and never see that? For days. For days. I would go out and try to figure out another way to meditate, etc. But it's there with us. It tells me when I ask God and I do my prayers with God, I am meditating as I listen, as I quietly listen. And then we do a prayer, which means I start talking whenever it says a prayer, and ask all through the day that I be given whatever I need to face this day called life. But I have to watch that self-will. I call it, I've named mine, it's the Toni Show. I've got to watch that self-will because it'll pop up. And I think it's important. We may ask for ourselves, however, if others will be helped. You know, for a while, I only read we must never ask for ourselves, but if others can be helped. So when I say, boy, I can't wait, I want to get a Mercedes, which I don't. But if I say, I can't wait, I want to get a Mercedes, that's asking for myself. And that goes back into Toni and her ego. If I say, Lord, please provide me with a car so that I can be of service when I need to help my 87-year-old mother and transport her around, and to be able to do service in my Alcoholics Anonymous, etc., and my Al-Anon. I forgot to mention I'm a double winner. When I say those things, and those are my prayers, I have a different motive. I don't care what the make is. What I care about is that I have an engine and four wheels and it moves. And if the make turns out to be something that's a deal, that's a deal. But I don't strive for specific things that are just going to be for me. Because I wasted a lot of time doing that already in life. Wasted a whole lot of time. And we know that doesn't work. I know that doesn't work. Now, I'm going to now flip it and go to nighttime. And the nighttime is back on page 86 and says when we retire, we constructively review our day. And we go through a whole list of questions that one can ask oneself. I'm usually too tired to go through that whole list on any given night, to be truthful. So I say, God, I simply go to the bottom line, which is I look at my day, I reflect on it, and I ask God for forgiveness. I just simply ask God for forgiveness. If there was something that I did, and I hope that I will have a better day tomorrow, and I may have learned some lessons tonight. Those are the things that I ask for before I go to bed. And notice, in between the nightly review and the on awakening is a big old giant space of white. Did you ever notice that? Well, in my book, it says, go to sleep. I wrote go to sleep in mine because I can't take this stuff from today into my night and into my rest. Go to sleep and then start all over in the morning. And so I'm back on page 87 where it says, if circumstances warrant and we can do some things with our beloveds at home, inviting them into our meditation, a little bit different. For me, my morning meditations are being in service and being in service to the people I sponsor. And so we do a daily reflection every day. And we talk about how does it apply to you? And then I share with them. So I get to do prayer and meditation every day and often 3 and 4 times a morning with inviting someone else in with me to meditate. And we emphasize those principles that you've taught us and how we want life to be different. And there it is. You know, there are many other helpful books based on your group conscience. Depending on what your group chooses, you may have only conference approved literature, but it invites you to look outside of our program for the other books. It doesn't invite us to espouse those books in our program, but it invites us to look at them and to read them, you know? And I love this. Be quick to see where religious people are right. Make use of what they have to offer. And I'm just going to leave that hanging in the air for a moment because it gets picked up on the final page. It asks me on the final pages, well, let me just continue. I just want to hold that in the air for a moment. And as I go through the day, I pause. You know, what does pause mean for me? What does pause mean for you? You know, postpone action until serenity ensues. Just postpone action. Be quiet, Toni. Postpone action until serenity ensues. Walk away. Biggest gift I've had over the last 2 years is learning that I don't have to respond to everything. That's my pause. I don't have to respond to everything. And if something is upsetting me, I walk and go into a safe space of haven for me or make a phone call to one of you. Because I can't run the show. Because I don't need that excitement. I don't need the fear and the anger and the worry and the self-pity and the foolish decisions on a daily basis. They may come to me once in a while, but I don't need them on a daily basis. I love the saying that basically, let's go back to relax. Yes? If I relax, I'll become much more efficient. I believe that I have 100 units of energy. I just have a person underneath it all. And I have 100 units of energy per day. And if I spend 50 of them over you, I can't be efficient. So I've got to keep that energy, spend a little bit here, spend a little here, spend a little bit there, and not wind up where there's none left. None left. So stop being inefficient, Toni, and I won't be so tired. For instance, this is spiritual nourishment for me tonight. To be with you is spiritual nourishment. When I sat down here Oh, I was tired. It was just life on life's terms. It was just the whole kind of day. But you have given me the energy back. And so I'm undisciplined. I don't know about you. Do I have any undisciplined folks out there? Come on, fess up. I'm undisciplined. So I need God to discipline me. I need God to discipline me. I may be organized sometimes. I'm certainly not disciplined. And that means following a particular a plan. And so I let God discipline me in the simple ways, which is action. And so here we go. To me, when we go back to page 87 and they tell me to be quick to see where religious people are right, make use of what they have to offer, well, here's their line. Faith without works is dead. Faith without works is dead. And therefore, we start to step into step 12. So the key words for me, when I think about my 11th step, is what are my motives? It tells me to ask God for inspiration. Thank you. I'm going to wrap up. What are my inspirations? What are the thoughts and decisions I make? What are my meditations? It gives me step by step how to do it. And how can I be more efficient? It has been my pleasure to be with you. My pleasure to be with you. And I leave you with watch out for the ant. Just watch out for the ant in your prayer meditation. What's an ant? Automatic negative talk. I gotta watch out for that ant. It's been my pleasure to be with you. God bless you.
Alcoholic. Thank you to all of you who do service for this group. This is a meeting I need every week. And I especially paid attention this week for whatever reason. Sometimes I'll lay on the couch and whatever and just listen. But this one I had to sit and take notes on. And what so much struck me, Toni, thank you. What struck me most, though, is you said you're a double winner. So am I. And I struggle sometimes with the Al-Anon message versus the AA message, where the AA message throughout our big book, it says not to ask for anything for ourselves and how can we be more useful to others, whereas the Al-Anon message very oftentimes for me, at least what I hear, is I also have to take care of myself. I have to detach from behaviors, things of that nature, and there's more of a focus on me. How do you reconcile or deal with those conflicting messages sometimes? Because my brain likes to go haywire and not be able to decipher between the two. And I do try to sort it out with a sponsor, but I would always like to hear someone else's perspective on that.
Thank you, Irina. My quick message to that is I come to Alcoholics Anonymous in order for me to not ever pick up a mind-altering, mood-altering substance. I go to Al-Anon so I'll stop carrying the life of someone who has picked up a mind-altering, mood-up substance.
Thank you, Toni. Thank you for the question and thank you for the clear answer. Before I bring my friend Rachel in, I want to acknowledge that Michelle has asked for the login for your meeting in the chat. So anyone who can put that in so Toni doesn't have to, that would be fabulous. And now come on in, Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm an alcoholic. Toni, thank you. What a beautiful share. You know, I would really love you to share more with us about, you know, how you see how our book talks about praying rightly, the idea of, you know, because I know as an alcoholic, I'm so often I get pulled back into ego and pulled back into that like desire to, you know, like you talked about, like, I want a Mercedes. No, I need a car so that I can be of service. And I loved when you shared that part because I think that as alcoholics, it is so tempting, when we are often reminded that we have to align our will with God's will, and that's when we are praying rightly. And I would love to hear to hear more about your perspective on that. Thank you so much for your share.
Thank you. Thank you, Rachel. And that was my grandmother's name, so you're a special person to me right now. And this is my simplest prayer. God, you know the need. That is the prayer that takes care of everything for me, that I don't have to be specific.
Toni, I really want to appreciate you for the clarity and the simplicity of your answers. Thank you so much. Regina, my love, come on in.
Hi, everybody. Regina, recovered alcoholic. Toni, I could listen to you for hours, like just listening to both your words and your tone. I went right to my happy place. So thank you for that. It was a good day, but what a sweet treat. I really appreciate your highlighting this piece about we relax and take it easy. And I am a person who has had different meditative practices over time, and nothing wrong. They were right at that time. And I would love actually hearing a little bit more about yours physically, if you will. I recently heard someone, a monastic, talk about how for her, she doesn't meditate with her mind coming into it. She's using her body to come into the meditative space. And I really love, if you could shed a little light on what your practice is or has been, that would be lovely. And thank you. Thank you so much again.
Thank
My
you.
meditative practice is to be quiet, to be still, because my life is all about movement, 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 most of the time. And so when I'm still, literally still, and sometimes I am still in an activity. How's that? I'm engaged in an activity that brings me joy. For instance, cooking is something that I do. And so when I'm in the kitchen, I know no one else is coming in for 2 to 3 hours. And I can talk to my God. I can do whatever. I can put on music that I like, etc. So I say being still is one way, and then the other is doing the thing that brings me joy.
Thank you.
Thank
Marilyn,
you.
you're up.
Good evening, family. My name is Marilyn. I am alcoholic. And Toni, thank you so much. I've heard you a few times before, and I just love your share. You touched a few things tonight. I got a lot of notes, but I'm going to just try to see if you elaborate a little bit on one of these items. And you talked about relaxing and taking it easy. And in that, more will be revealed. But then you cross-connected it with the 12 and 12 when you talked about the heartbreaking struggle, right? Of, it says here, money, romance, and self-importance. And I added, children and grandchildren and getting everything done, my dailiness and, all of those things that come, how do you reconcile those two? Even though I understand you say more will be revealed and it's in the divine inspiration from my higher power, but I'd just like to hear you talk a little bit more on that, if you don't mind. And I thank you.
Marilyn. Marilyn, the heartbreaking struggle. Ooh, I've had some heartbreaking struggles. I've had, those things called adult children, okay? The ones that don't answer the text until they need something, okay? I've had those heartbreaking struggles in my life. And what I've decided is, tick, 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 this is my life. I did my job. I've done my job for a lot of things, except for my 87-year-old mother who is struggling with dementia. I've done my job. So now it is about what are those things that cause me not to have heartbreaking struggle. Thank you.
Elisa?
Sure. Hi, I'm an alcoholic, and my name's Elisa.
Hi, Elisa.
Um, as I'm listening and like, oh, and then straining and struggling to make sure I get everything down because I can staple it so I can, get it right. But that's what my head does. So, it popped into my mind probably at like 7:15, and I'm tired. I'm hungry, angry, lonely, tired. I'm restless, irritable, discontent. And sometimes it's hard to tell am I that because I'm just exhausted and go to sleep, lady. But do you think I would actually go upstairs and go to bed because there's nobody here? There's nobody grading me except for me? No, of course not. No, I'm going to think about that the daughter isn't working and the car's going to get repossessed and the blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So I remembered my friend Ed, who shared here, and he has passed away. And so I thought I could come to this meeting because it's Thursday. And I'm like, I don't want to go to a meeting. I definitely don't want to look at, okay. So I played games for half an hour and I got more relaxed. Yay. But I forgot to be grateful. And I'm just tired. So, I'm listening to you share going, oh, thank you, higher power. And oh, thank you. Look at all these double winners. Oh, thank you. Oh, I forgot that. That didn't come to my mind that, oh, that's why you feel, that, oh, there's actually a reason and you can't do anything about it. So just go, oh, hello. And then take care of myself, like, eat and sleep and basic stuff. I really appreciate that. So someone else asked a question and I kind of get stuck. My brain gets really literal when I look at the big book. When I just go take care of myself and I walk the earth and I draw down at cardinal points and I do whatever I do, or I pull an oracle card, the message comes to me. I pulled cards while you were talking. I'm like, oh my God, it's the same thing you're saying it's amazing to me. Then I get hung up on saying this prayer and I can't ask for this and I can't ask for that. And it just gets me jammed up. And I don't know, after 33 years of being sober, I keep sticking on those specific words. So what I heard you talk about before, and then as to your cooking, it's just that space for communion. It's like going to the dot and meeting my higher power wherever and whatever. Those words in the big book still confuse me so much. There's a question there. I just can't form it any better. I don't how to do what it's saying. And it made sense to you. Like if I think, oh, I'm going to ask for that Mercedes. Like I don't want the cars to be repossessed because I have allergies and I don't want to die. And I really need this car, God. I can't be of service like that. How can I be of service? Oh, how many times today in my tiredness did I ask my higher power, how could I be of service? I said, no, I'm just too tired. I can't do anything else for anybody else. There was a question there. You're shaking your head, so I'll just stop talking now. Thanks for letting me share.
Okay. Thank you, Elisa, for the question. And for me, I have to watch when I'm being double-minded. On the one hand, you said you asked God for something. On the other hand, I'm too tired. So I'm watch that double-minded speaking to myself. I watch that, I can say I feel tired, but I'm energized again when I'm in here with you. There are things that I do in my practice of being a member of this beautiful fellowship. And the number one thing is be present. I'm always where my feet are. If I'm having a meeting or in a meeting, I am in a meeting. I am not folding laundry. I tried it once or twice. Didn't work. Okay? I need to be present. I have my screen is on whenever I'm in a meeting, with rare exceptions, if I have an emergency or something that happens in my home. Okay? But be present. That's number one for me. Thank you.
Vera, thank you so much for putting your hand up. Come on in.
Hi, Vera, alcoholic. Thanks so much, alcoholics, and everyone for your service. Toni, thanks so much. I got so much from your share. So specifically, you talked about don't strive for specific things that are only going to be for me. And then I just heard you say from someone else's question, not striving for things that cause heartbreak and struggle. So I connect the striving towards my expectations. or my inacceptance of things, which causes more struggle. But I'm wondering, like, if you have been an experience or circumstance where you feel like, I really don't deserve this. I don't deserve this, And so, wanting something different than what you are receiving. And what I've been guided to most recently is praying for more compassion and tolerance towards the other, right? But I'm like just wondering what exactly, like what tools do you use? Like when I guess you feel like, we do deserve more than
Okay.
that. And even my higher power, I think my higher power thinks I deserve more than that. So I'm just wondering what you have to share about that.
Thank you, Vera. Believe me, y'all, I am not always Zen, okay? I am not always in a Zen mode, okay? But I get to recognize it when I'm out of touch with my spiritual. What did you tell me? One of those darn pages, I think you told me that, I had to be a good Samaritan every day. And every time I read that, I go, every day, every day, every day. Okay. So there are times, Vera, not in my good Samaritan mode, but I catch myself. And I try to do, in other words, I can be out of sorts for an hour or two, and maybe sometimes, maybe with some people, it can be a little longer than that. But I have to decide. There's a beautiful piece on page 83. There's a beautiful piece on 83. Let me get to it. And when I work with ladies and we do a year-long study of this wonderful book, where it tells me, and we look at it, where it says on page 83, asking each morning in our meditation that our Creator show us the way of patience, tolerance, kindness, and love. So I'm asking God. So that's part of my prayer on 83. But then just jump down to the bottom where it says, we should be sensible, tactful, considerate, and humble without being servile or scraping. Okay? So I get to decide, how do I want to be in my life?
Thanks for calling Capital One. This call doesn't.
I get to decide that. How do I want to be?
Thank you, Toni. Nash, you get to close us out this evening. Thank you for being my buddy on this road. Okay, unmute.
There we go. Hi. Thank you, Alice. I'll make this quick. Toni, you have such a wonderful presence, and God definitely is speaking through you tonight. You're so calming and soothing to my soul. I really, really appreciate your wise words and the way you carry the message. Quick question. At the end, when you said something about we don't want to bring our aunt, what was that again? I love that.
Automatic negative thinking.
There you go.
I don't
Thank
want to
you.
bring the ants
Yeah,
around.
yeah. I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nash.